Hello and welcome to the Car Podcast with Chris Harris and his friends. It's episode 65. We never thought we'd get here, but we have. If you put a 3 in between the 6 and the 5, you have one of my favourite BMWs. There you go. Interesting BMW trivia. One of us happens to be sitting in a BMW that he's just bought that I think he's instantly fallen in love with. We love people that have instant love affairs with cars. Write that down, Finley. Instant love affairs with cars. There's a topic for you.
Yes.
Another T-shirt.
Another T-shirt. Let's begin with these changes that have been announced. Some might call it backtracking from the EU. Not that any of this has been remotely predicted by this podcast at all, that these 2035 regulations might represent some of the poorest decision-making ever seen by a political body. But I'm going to go straight to Chris Cooper, who, as ever, will explain these in a non-partisan, logical way.
Well, this was Neil's suggestion as a question because it was a good spot over the weekend when he saw the latest part of this news. Last week, it was trailed that there was a suggestion the EU would allow combustion engine cars to be made beyond 2035, which was previously the cutoff, still formally the cutoff, but only if they use synthetic or e-fuels or whatever it is, blah, blah, blah. That was followed a few days later by this rumour that actually the EU may just push the whole thing back to 2040. It isn't going to happen. I mean, the death of the combustion engine isn't going to happen. The 2035 thing with synthetic fuels, I think, is interesting because at one level you might say, aha, there's an incentive now to invest in all of these e-fuels and synthetic fuels and some very clever people trying to do that. But the darker side of me thinks, do you know what? That's the thin end of the wedge. Would I invest my money in an e-fuel when I could get closer to 2035? And suddenly, on a whim, the regulators could say, we're going to carry on with gasoline and diesel cars. Your synthetic fuel world suddenly becomes a whole lot less interesting and valuable. So we talked about this a lot. We've sort of wondered whether it would get pushed back. There is a split in the manufacturer lobby. People like Volvo and I presume Polestar, who have full fat committed to EV futures, are probably thinking, hang on a minute, we took you at your word, people of the EU, and now it looks like you're equivocating. I suspect they're doing more than equivocating. Whereas BMW, Mercedes, other bigger manufacturers with a broader industrial base and a greater investment and commitment to internal combustion engine might say, phew. My bet right now, a small bet, a gentleman's sporting bet would be the closer we get to 2035 or 2040, the more fudges and caveats there will be, and internal combustion engines in one way or another will still be available. Maybe just smaller numbers of specialist cars. Who knows? It's such a moving feast. But I think the UK's position, where right now it remains formally the case that 2030 is the cutoff, looks increasingly untenable, is my summary.
I think that's a fair summary. Neil, you spotted this. Well, I have to say, I saw it at the same time. I think all of our Instagram algorithms are probably
we all spotted
around the same area. What do you think, Neil?
Well, it's our daily search for emergencies.
Yeah,
as we're now looking to do at least we need at least 2 emergencies a week. But this actually is probably the biggest one. We probably were a bit premature on our last emergency because it should have been this emergency.
Yeah.
Because this is the biggest one probably that we've had, isn't it? This is bigger than, I don't know, will Max win the blah, blah, blah. Look, I think it's good news, isn't it? Hopefully it's practical news. It's not been officially said, has it?
No.
It's a lot of lobbying coming from, I don't know whether it was the Mercedes guy or the BMW guy, but he's basically telling the FT, by the looks of it, what the EU have already decided, even though the EU have not actually said anything. So that's immense pressure going on through industries that probably are going to get possibly wiped out or under immense pressure, and German unemployment going through the roof if these things aren't changed. It looks as though it totally is going to change. Hopefully we would all agree in our little world of motoring that it's logical and practical, that it does get pushed back a bit, because who knows, maybe they'll be able to create cars and fuel that is so efficient that we don't need to just make electric cars. Says the man that's 14 years late on electric cars that's actually sat in one. But it does have a little range extender in the back,
Tell us
so
about
it's
your
a sort of
i3.
slightly.
It's a car that I fell in love with quite quickly. I presume you have as well.
Well, I haven't bought it. I've been lent it by a lovely company called Wisely that are the experts in BMW i3s. No promotion there. But it is I think it's the thinking man's i3 because it's the range extender, but with CarPlay, but not the S. So
Yeah,
it's, you know,
not the S.
it's, I'm
Avoid the
told
S.
it's the one, I'm told obviously it's the one to have, Mr. Clifford. And it's not for sale, but if you want to buy it, then we'll have a chat. It's one of those loans. But it's really good. It's really, and actually, I thought I had one, and then I said to my wife, "Did I have one, or was it a dream?" And she said, "We did have one for a week, and you were an idiot because you got so annoyed with the bloke because you couldn't get the price you wanted. You gave it back, and I really wish you'd have kept it 9 years ago." So now I'm the last man ever to say that the i3 is brilliant, and obviously now, as I've probably semi-owned one, it is brilliant. I just think that hopefully this will get formalised and a bit of pressure. There is a bit of pressure on the UK now to maybe come in line with that, because it's going to be very difficult not to come in line with it, isn't it?
I've just been handed a piece of paper that is up there. It's wonderful. Lovely Indian chap who helped me with the internet a minute ago. Just says, heads up, there's a stewards meeting for the rally scheduled in this room in another 20 minutes. That's good for me, isn't it? So I'll be homeless in
They
about
can join. They
14
can join.
minutes. I'll bring them all and introduce them, and then when they're discussing the hopefully we might get some time back because we pressed our overtake button I think 52 times on the last stage and didn't get let past. Right. I
Yes.
think this is fascinating because this podcast is completely apolitical, but there is, let's just say, if your politics leans to the left, you're probably not that into the motor car. But if you look at the bigger picture here, it's the sort of state ownership of a particular car company that is probably helping force this in Germany. You know, Lower Saxony owns a chunk of the VW group, and ultimately, if this doesn't work and they can't, and Volkswagen Group starts to suffer, there will be mass unemployment in that area. So that they really need to be able to build ICEs. It's a bizarre situation that you have a state ownership of something that means they kind of have to go to bat for stuff they don't quite believe in. I think it's very strange. Manish.
I thought this felt a bit like a Yes Minister sketch, where you kind of had Bernard running into Humphrey going, "You won't believe it, you won't believe it. Boris Johnson's announced 2030 to get rid of the ICE. Calm down, Bernard, it won't happen." And he goes, but it will, but it will. And then, a few beats later, Rishi Sunak's pushed it back to 2035. You're quite right. He is a shopkeeper's son. He's not a shopkeeper's son, he's a pharmacist's son and a GP's son. Well, that's not a great medical profession, but he went to Winchester. Well, that's not a very great school. You can see that. And then Keir Starmer's brought it back to 2030. What are we going to do? We're going to announce an inquiry, and it's going to be in 2027, which is what we're doing. We're having an inquiry in 2027, and Bernard is going to make sure, along with Humphrey, that inquiry is going to take about 5 years to report, and we're going to fall
Cost
into line.
£1 billion.
Of course it will. It costs £1 billion, but we'll fall into line with the EU, which we've left. But we will fall into line, and we will also announce it's 2040, because that's what we do. It's kind of genius.
I mean, the great shame is that our one real last volume car company, JLR, that operates in the UK, would really benefit from this more than anyone else, wouldn't they? So we really need, as a country, we need this to happen. It will. I just think it will.
Do you think via the medium of this podcast we could reach out to the lovely people of Jaguar Land Rover and say to them, look, we have a love affair with what you're trying to do. We do, because all that we've said has always come from a place of love and passion. It would be great to go and meet them and talk to them about what they're trying to do and see them, and so they can inform us and we can talk with more passion about that. I think that would be.
I think that might already be being organised. I'm really happy about it.
Okay.
No, actually,
Sorry, go on.
I'd just say it's quite rare in this day and age to have a really good news story that features the internal combustion engine. And this is, I think this is a good news story. And I'm not just coming at this as some sort of knuckle dragging petrolhead who wants to eschew any kind of new technology. I think it's common sense meeting the enthusiast in a place where no one needs to feel guilty is what I think personally about this. Go on, Chris Cooper.
May I just one last point, and it'd be interesting to see how our esteemed correspondents and audience feel about this and their views on it from around the world. There is a dimension of moral hazard here in that well-worn phrase from the global financial crisis 15, 17 years ago, whenever it was, that some institutions were, quote, too big to fail. Volkswagen is too big to fail because the economic and social and human consequences of that would be enormous. The moral hazard is that is there a temptation for the manufacturer not to do, quote, the right thing, which is accelerate the investment and move towards electric vehicles, because they know that if they don't, there is a possibility that the regulator will rescue them in some way, in this case by moving the date or fudging in other words. And that is a wider social debate for society to have. I think our view would be, and I think Neil's put his finger on it a little earlier, if the regulator was to say, we want to target outcomes rather than mechanisms. So the outcome is we want to lower emissions rather than stop you building certain kinds of technology. Does that incentivize a manufacturer to say, right, turns out we've got some quite clever people who look at this stuff all the time. Let's let them loose on this problem of the outcome. And I think that would get us all to a place where we can recognize that there is a global challenge on emissions. The population world is getting ever bigger. That in itself we have to respond to. Can't pretend it isn't happening. So, but I think the fact that common sense is now entering this debate is good. And I think from our point of view, loving the car and motoring and all the ventures that we have, this feels like a positive step forward. We welcome it.
Yeah.
Let's move on to an even more serious subject. Wait there 1 second. What time is your meeting? Is it in 10 minutes? I'll be out in 9. So I will. I'm moving on to Chris. So Stuart's meeting starting in a minute. I'll probably get thrown out for this. Christmas movies, best car movie intro. At least we'll be dealing with a really adult subject when they walk in and realise that it's well worth having me here. Christmas movies, best car movie intro. That's interesting. What's the actual question here? Is it the best car movie, Christmas movie, or is it the best car movie intro? Neil?
I look at this as in, what's the best car movie you can watch at Christmas to cheer yourself up because it's Christmas, and therefore of those car movies, which one's got the best intro? So it doesn't need to be a Christmas movie with a car in it. It's a car movie you watch at Christmas. That's certainly the way I've looked at it.
The car bit has to be at the beginning of the film.
Yes. Hence the word intro.
Yeah, do keep up.
And therefore,
seems a rather mean-spirited way to apply the logic here.
Well, it is the time of year to be mean-spirited, isn't it?
Oh, dear
okay, well,
me.
you can bloody well start, because I'm scratching my head here. Go on.
Okay, well, I'll talk slowly. My favourite car movie with a good intro is the obvious one, which is obviously a shit movie apart from the intro, which is Le Mans with Steve McQueen. Because the beginning of that movie, I've tried to reenact it so many times with my friends, with the slate grey 2.2S screaming through those beautiful, desolate, isolated French country roads that are straight as an arrow with all the trees. And then he goes into the little village, which we're convinced is Arnage, and drives past all the little shops because they're all closed because everyone's asleep because it's 2:00 in the afternoon. And then he parks in that car park, which I've parked in many times, overlooking the cathedral in the old town of Le Mans, which now, you know, is particularly when you go to Le Mans, is full up. But I think in the movie there's like 4 cars, 2 Citroens and a Renault, and he just parks up, and I think, oh, you know, it's that funny 2.2S with the American front lights, which at the time
Yeah.
you're like, oh, why has he got those funny lights in the front? But now you look at it and think, actually, it's really cool. It's got those front lights, and he's got the sunroof.
What feature is particular to a 2.2S that wasn't on a 2.4S?
The oil filler cap.
Yeah. Yes. The oil clapper.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. It's only on 1970, I think. And it's in slate grey, and it's got the Pepita half leather, and it's got his sunroof, and it's all going on, and that's 100% my favourite start to that movie. The rest of the movie is actually a bit shit, apart from it's quite good to look at Steve McQueen because he's lovely, but that's the best bit.
Right, got to work out where to go here. Hold on. That's the pool there.
We carry on.
Kilimanjaro in the
Define
background.
Starlink.
Right, keep going. Keep going.
It really is.
Manish, why don't you go
There we
next?
go. Right, I'll sit here for a minute.
Okay, well, I think there are 2 films that I dip into actually more than once a year, and one's a thriller, and the other one is, I think, a definite car movie. I think The Italian Job for me has just got the greatest intro with a car ever. You know, I'm obsessed with Muras, so that's that ticked. It's really interesting, isn't it, that they didn't do something more obvious and go with a Ferrari, and that always makes me think about how lateral in some ways that movie is. So you've got an orange Mura, the Italian countryside, but if you actually watch it, it's, what's his name, Brazzi. I always forget his first name. Is it Rossano Brazzi, the guy who's driving the car, who comes up with the master plan? I love watching him drive, and you're hearing that beautiful piece of music, Quincy Jones, On Days Like These, and you're watching him. There's a really subtle change in it. Starts sort of almost in the summer, and then when he gets up into the mountains, suddenly you start to see the snow, and he puts those really cool designer sunglasses on, lights a cigarette. He's got this thing just literally hanging from the corner. It's just the epitome of cool. And you wonder, where is this going? I always watch it and I go, well, where is this going? And then bang, they blow him up. And then you have that line of Lancias, don't you? Fiat. And I've forgotten the name of the baddie. And he sits and he crushes the sunglasses under his shoes. And that's it. You know what this story is about before the story ever opens. And that, for me, is it's the best kind of storytelling.
We've all reenacted that, I'm sure, or certainly up the Col de Torini or one of the passes. We've all done it a million times.
Is that an intro? I'm still slightly confused. That's not the intro, because there's a whole load of film before that.
No, it begins with the whine of a V12, and you see what you think is a viaduct, and then the camera pans down, and you see a tiny orange dot, like a laser.
It's got the credits running over it, hasn't it?
Yeah. Stunning. It's
okay,
just so forward.
Chris Cooper.
Well, I've got 2 answers to this question, because there is only one Christmas movie. There is only one Christmas movie, and it's so much a Christmas movie. You can only watch it on Christmas, specifically Christmas Eve. Ho, ho, ho. Now I have a machine gun. It's Die Hard. It's the best Christmas movie. Welcome to the party, pal. If we had all the day, I could recite the whole bloody script to you. It's wonderful. So it's a fantastic Christmas movie. We watch it at home. In fact, every year for the last 7 or 8 years, we sit down on Christmas Eve. I take a little photograph of the opening scene as the Jumbo's landing in Los Angeles and send it to Mr. Harris, because that's my Christmas card to him every year.
It is.
But the intro is a Jumbo.
Yes, because I said there were 2 answers. One is, what's the best Christmas movie? And the second one, which I'm just about to get to, is what is the best car movie? What is the best movie with the car intro, which makes you happy at Christmas? And I had Italian Job as one, but I think actually a really funky, fun one is bell bottoms. Baby Driver.
Oh,
That's good.
Ansel Elgort in a 2006 WRC, Subaru WRC with STI enhancements, with John Bernal, Eliza Gonzalez, and John Hamm. I've watched this movie a few times. And when John Bernal just points forward, he sticks it in reverse and does the most amazing, fantastic. It's just brilliant. Everyone will have seen it, but that is a great movie to watch at Christmas with a great opening titles car scene. Makes you happy. Those are my choices.
Blimey, I'm on the spot here. So it's potentially two answers. I mean, Christmas movie, I think I'm with Chris. I just love Die Hard. It is a Christmas film, and I just think it's a brilliant film. So I'll go with that. I mean, I tend to dip back into Bond films over Christmas. I'm always. I think they're not Christmas films, but for those of us that are old enough to remember that you bought the Radio Times and the TV Times, and that your dad bought them home, put them on the table, and went, circle around what you want. You can all argue about who can watch it on the telly box.
Yes,
and you had, you're the youngest, you'd get outranked, but the Bond film was the one thing everyone agreed on. Everyone wanted to watch whatever Bond film was on,
even if
it was Never Say Never Again. You'd all sit down and watch it and talk about how the franchise speared off into parallels. Was Sean too old? I could even watch You Only Live Twice, and I find that purgatory. So I think, and this is controversial, that I think one of the best sequences of stunt driving in a Bond film was at the very beginning of Quantum of Solace, when the DBS is in the tunnel and it ends up going backwards. I'm pretty sure that was choreographed by my friend Ben Collins, and he did the driving for the tunnel scene. I think the dirt driving was done actually by Higgins,
Mark Higgins.
By Mark Higgins, and David, his brother, is actually co-driving on this event here and being hugely helpful to me because I'm useless at I've only just started. My God, have I got a baptism of fire here? So I'm going to go. I think there was something about the driving in that film. It was just before it all got a bit too silly and drifty. The cars actually looked like they were in a chase, and they looked like the person that was trying to get away was trying to save their own life. That's maybe another subject. Maybe Finley can remember that one. When does driving in a film really look like the driver is trying to get away from something? It's not just choreographed to look cool. It's like that car's got the language of, if I don't win this one, I'm dead. And I think that is a very different look to driving. And Quantum of Solace, I think, has got some of that about it. When the Alfa Romeo police cars chase them down into the quarry, it's quite edgy actually. In fact, Quantum of Solace is a film I really disliked at the start, but has got far more going for it than people give it credit for, I think.
It's a great Bond film. I had 100% with you. I had that on my list as well, but I'm glad I left it to you because I 100% agree.
All of those Daniel Craig, they all merge into one for me. I can't tell the difference between any of them. They're all great, by the way. I can't. Good. No. Brilliant. I wish I could.
Right, let's go for the lovely warm feeling of a 4x4 when it's windy and wet, or in a storm when only a 4x4 will do, basically. You know what? I'm not there, but I've heard it's a bit rough in the UK at the moment, and it sounds like they are quite handy things this week. Let's go to Manish, who certainly doesn't, nor ever has done, or ever will drive a 4x4.
Well, I have driven one. I just never owned one. But the line that caught my eye in this was, it's windy and wet or in a storm. And I have to tell you, I have a very, very good friend in Abu Dhabi who had a 2008, so pre-facelift L322. And it was black, wonderful leather interior. I mean, really beautifully specced. And he's a bit of an artist. And on the side of his car, there was an Emirati insignia from the Air Force with a little red wedge in it. And I have to tell you, if you are caught in a sandstorm, it is just as nasty as being caught in a hailstorm. It's unpleasant. Your glasses don't stop anything. Shut your eyes, shut your nose, shut your ears. Get into one of those and drive down through the desert on a highway. Just watch the sand drifting across, blasting against you. There is nothing as warm and secure and wonderful as being in a supercharged L322 driving through the desert in a desert storm. It's the most amazing feeling. You're high up, you feel kind of bulletproof. Those things I thought they were pretty wonderful cars, pretty peak. Do you like the post facelift ones? Perhaps you guys, when was that? 12, wasn't it? But I really like that.
From 08 to about 10, they were mint then.
That's just the most beautiful era, wasn't it? L322 in a sandstorm, you're safe. It's all bulletproof. It's all beautiful. And that little insignia proving you're an artist on the side. God, I love that car.
I think you're right about that. The sandstorm thing.
I think this is...
Sorry. Neil, you go on. My apologies.
No, go ahead, Mr. Cooper. No, go ahead.
I was saying, I remember reading Biggles books when I was growing up. And they told you all about sandstorms when Biggles goes east or Biggles goes sandy or whatever they were called, or Biggles to the rescue. And there'd be sandstorms. And you're absolutely, it's your description of it, Manish, reminded me of reading those Biggles books all those years ago. Very evocative. Sorry, Neil, back to you.
No, I think the 4x4 gets a bad rap, really. I think we're over negative about it, and we clearly are. Well, I'm not wrong because I'm not negative about it, but I think you can't argue with success of a genre or a type of car. It changed automotive to a large degree, didn't it? And I think there's many reasons why consumers love the 4x4 thing. And I think we've got some sort of name storm at the minute, haven't we? Boomer or Sumer or some bloody thing. I don't get this naming storms thing. It's all a bit of an exaggeration, isn't it? Like it rained a bit basically, and it was a little bit windy last night. I mean, it's hardly a bloody tornado or a hurricane, but when you get in, particularly when it's dark and it is raining or it's windy or just basically winter, I think it's a lovely protective feeling jumping into the Range Rover or the whatever, the slam of the door, the fact that you're higher, you feel safer, don't you? You feel that you can escape anything if it's going to flood. It's a bit like that sort of over-engineered thing that we talked about recently with having a watch that goes down to 65,000 meters. You can go in a swimming pool on your holiday. I think the fact that you can survive what could well be 1% chance a disaster, I think is a lovely feeling. You put on the heated steering wheel, you put on the heated seat, you set it at 23, you know you're going to be safe. And I think I don't think any car does that as well as a 4x4. You may well be driving to work, or you're probably not going to go up a mountain in Anglesey, but I think it's the cosseting protective feeling of that 4x4, I think, is one of the big reasons why they are successful. And I like that feeling.
Yeah, good God, there's so much in there I want to reply to. Chris Cooper, go first.
So I think that's a love letter to the 4x4. I 100% agree with it. I had one question though, Neil. Does it matter what kind of tyres you're on?
No.
Good. Right answer.
No, that doesn't. They don't matter. They're all round and black and sticky.
Excellent.
Neil's
right. He's 100% right.
Are you going to carry on, Chris, or not? Are you going to move? Or are you finished?
No. I've got one small thing to add, which is this is about the best 4x4 by far, Land Rover. And Land Rover, I stand to be corrected here. I'm sure there's an example that challenges this. But Land Rover has always stood apart. We're biased. We're talking about this from within the United Kingdom. So it's the home team. But it's been the manufacturer that only does one thing. It makes 4x4s. It's pushed what a 4x4 can be, granted, but its DNA is a 4x4. Toyota makes arguably one of the most impressive, if not the most impressive and robust and reliable 4x4, the Land Cruiser. But Toyota does other things as well. Gave us the LFA, for example. That's not a bad thing. But this is about a love letter to the 4x4. And I was in a Land Rover product earlier on this week in the Little Storm. And Neil's right. You know, I got in and it sort of, you just look at the little thing on the dashboard and says, do you want to raise the wading height to 900 millimeters? And I thought, because on our little lane where we live, the farm, there were some quite big puddles. I mean, you could feel the underside of the car, not just the tires, sloshing in the water. So I thought, I'm just going to press the wading depth up a bit. I mean, I was nowhere near needing to do it. It just felt safe and comfortable and comforting and warm and lovely. Lovely is the word.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Neil said something that I normally agree with lots of things Neil said, but I profoundly disagree with one thing you said. It doesn't mean I'm right. I've always felt as a journalist that it's actually it's the one statement that I react to. I don't think if something's popular, it's right. I think, you know, the idea that the 4x4 is popular doesn't make it right. I mean, I don't need to name certain things in history that have proved very popular that, when we look at them in hindsight, weren't very good. But, you know, lots of things human beings have done.
Come on.
No, it's the same thing. And I think, you know, the Escort Mark IV was incredibly popular, but it's an absolutely awful vehicle. And I think the 4x4.
Yeah, okay.
I think if you could tell me that the 4x4 was popular because it felt cosseting and safe in stormy weather, I'd agree with you. But actually, it's just so mummies look cool on the way to school. It's nothing to do with what they can actually do. So
No,
sadly,
I don't agree with you.
well, but they're not. But surely you have to acknowledge the fact that they're not using any of the things you're talking about. What makes them popular is their image. It's not because they can do the things they do, because they never do any of those bloody things. They spend most of their time in town driving between large houses and schools. I mean, that's how many of them are actually out there weathering.
It's the feeling that you can if you need it. It's safe.
Safe, lovely.
But because of that, we're using twice as much fuel. We're using twice as much tires as we fucking need to. The SUV has accelerated the death of the ICE motor car we love, because politically it's so easy to latch on how horrifically inefficient it is. It's awful. You know, it's done us.
I wasn't explaining the negatives. I was explaining why it was popular.
Right. But I think I actually completely agree with what you're saying. I don't think it's a positive thing for a message at all. But I do think the late Alan Clark described it beautifully. Now, he used to write with real passion about a Series 1 first generation Defender diesel, and it had a diesel engine made in the UK, which was actually very advanced at the time. It was one of the first direct injection diesel engines that used a high pressure pump. And he used to write about driving it to his estate in Scotland. And he used to write about driving it in inclement weather.
A disco.
Disco.
Yeah.
Sorry, disco.
Yeah.
And my head's a bit fucked. And I remember one phrase really stuck with me, and to describe the high driving position of driving in inclement weather, and the high driving position if you drive in poor weather is so much safer if it's raining, because you're above the spray for most vehicles. And he said, I don't want to be staring at the axle casings of HGVs. And he uses the phrase axle casings. And he's so right.
Yeah.
You know, if you find yourself in a Lotus Exige in a rainstorm and you're behind a lorry, you do feel incredibly vulnerable. And where I will contradict what I just said is that human beings are incredibly defensive creatures. You know, we might think we're quite advanced, but ultimately, if you've got some children, you're just going to put them in what you think is the biggest, safest box possible. And you don't really give a shit if the Chancellor of the Exchequer is going to tax you. You don't really give a shit if people are going to sneer at you. You just want to be in the biggest box possible. And if it's got Land Rover badge on it, it looks lovely, you're going to do it because you're ultimately Homo sapiens and you're there to protect your clutch. And that bit I get. I don't like it. I'd rather be in an RS6 with a bit of spray, thanks. But I think it's a really interesting one. It's a really interesting one. And I'm not being deliberately opposite. I just think it's a shame that there's no vehicle whose capabilities are so underused as these things. When you go and see the way they're developed, you go and see a Land Rover being developed. I've been lucky enough to do that over the years. When you do the journalist story, and they're wading up to their fucking nipples, and it's waterproof, and it's got all these buttons that'll do stuff, and you think, that's just going to drive through Fulham. This is just ridiculous. But that's the way
Yeah.
that's the way. It's exactly this. It's exactly the watch analogy Neil used. People love knowing it can do it. And who am I? I can disagree, but I can't say that people shouldn't do it.
Chris, don't you
Yeah.
think? I mean, I think that's the kind of unconscious marketing, though. It is playing on people's sense of safety. I think there's quite a lot of marketing research on, why do women like 4x4s? They all say it's the seating position. I feel safe. But you've only got one child. And if you hit a child in one of these things, don't you think it's worse for the child that I hit? And that produces the kind of slightly blank, no, I'm protecting my child. It's all very primal, I think, the use of the 4x4 to take your kids to school. And that's, I think, how they're marketed.
I think it's nicer in bad weather, as Chris says. It's a nicer thing to
If
drive.
everybody had one, Neil, if everybody was exactly at the same height in 4x4s, that kind of neutralizes that a bit, doesn't it?
Well, or the alternative is, if you're driving a 4x4, don't drive into people.
In a straight line, I find them really uncomfortable, particularly in the back when they yaw and they roll, and I don't like being in them at all. But you're right. In a rainstorm, if you want to feel like you're in Twister chasing a hurricane, you don't want to do it in a 3 Series. You want to be in a bloody great big tank, don't you? Of course you do. You want to be in a G-Wagon. Right, the apocalypse car. Here we go. Name your favourite private detective car. I mean, if anyone chooses anything other than the obvious one, then you're all cretins. I'm going to go with Manish first.
Well, I'm not going to go with the Rockford Files, I'm afraid.
Oh.
I'm not going to go. I'm not. I'm actually going to go. I went through these. I thought, do you remember the show Vegas with Dan Tanner? Who had the Thunderbird, the red, and he parked it in a garage in his actual house. So the car was always in the background. And so that was just cool. Chinatown, Jake Giddis has the Ford V8 convertible, gorgeous looking thing. Moonlighting, BMW 635 CSI. That was
a great program.
That's the winner, Manish. That's the winner.
But no, I have the winner. I believe the winner is Farrah Fawcett Majors in Charlie's Angels, who had the 1976 Cobra 2. She made that car famous, white with the black stripe along the side that said Cobra 2. A brilliant incognito car to follow baddies in. They will never spot you in that thing behind them. That is the car for me.
You've done this really well, Manish.
Bloody hell, Manish. You've taken them all off the board there, Neil.
Sorry.
I mean, Charlie's Angels, what a program. That kept you going, didn't it? If you didn't have the catalogues.
Yeah. I think we all know what you're saying.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Where are the TV detectives nowadays? It was such a problem in the 70s and 80s.
YouTube has killed them.
No, they're all driving around in 4x4s. I think okay, I'm going British niche. There's many American ones I love, and I love Jim Rockford. Bloody hell! But do you remember Hazel?
Yes.
Now, Hazel wasn't actually that successful, I don't think. It was a sort of successor or prior to Minder in a way, but it was really 70s. I mean, loads of flares, loads of hairspray. I had a lot of hair jealousy because I can't remember his first name, but his hair was amazing. He drove a Triumph Stag, and to a 10-year-old boy, which you didn't really know how shit the Triumph Stag was at the time, but what a very handsome, aggressive, manly car that was. I think it was green, actually. He had made green great again before it was even great the first time. And he always was pulling the birds. He was always, getting into scrapes. But then he'd jump in that Targa topped Triumph Stag in green, and I thought, oh, how do you get a life like that when you've got eczema and you're in Portsmouth at 10 years old? I wanted to find a way to be Hazel.
Yeah, it
Nicholas
was green.
Ball, that was the actor. Oh, there
Oh,
you
Yes.
look
are.
at that.
It's a great
Honestly,
looking car, the Triumph Stag.
I'll tell you what, lads.
Manish,
I
you've
would have
done
a
well,
try.
but I think that
Chris Cooper.
well, Mr. Harris, I'm going to leave the obvious one to you, but it's not Rockford Files. I think we all had another one in our mind, but The Private Detective is alive and kicking on TV. Down Cemetery Road, which is on one of the streaming channels right now, Zoe Boehm, the character played by Emma Thompson. And it's done really well because the Citroen DS, which is such a great, cool car, really suits a character. It's in the books as well. It doesn't really have a big part in it. It's just there. It's a car rather than a statement. But it's such a cool car. And my wife Lynn and I were watching it. I think the last one's out this week, actually. We've recording this week beginning, whatever it is, 8th of December. And I had to stop and pause it so I could go away and look it up. And I thought that's a sign of a great car in a private detective television program. So I would go for the one that's right now out there, Zoe Boehm's Citroen DS.
Good for you.
This is a tricky one because obviously the word private rather narrows it down because they can't be employed by the state police.
Exactly.
So you've narrowed it down.
Professionals are
I'm a bit
out.
gutted because for me, it's all any detective's got to be driving around in Morse's Mark II Jag, which is just my favourite television car of all time. It's the obvious one, isn't it? It's bloody Magnum in that 308 because I just think that opening sequence when he wheel spins on the dirt off the side of the road, bit of locks, like, and also it's a very important one. We've discussed this, and Neil Clifford and I do agree on this. Is that I used to think the 328 was better looking than the 308, and it's not. The 308's better looking, isn't it? The 308's a better looking car.
It is.
Yep.
Much better looking car.
It is now. Yeah.
I probably said this. I said this before, but did I talk about this before? There is a Magnum. There's a club of Magnums in California. We'll post a picture where all these men dress up as Magnum and drive around in 308s with the shorts, with the shirts. I saw them at Car Week. It's just brilliant.
Do they have mustaches? Do they all just put the tash on? Oh, brilliant.
Yep. I'll post a picture of it. It's great. I mean, what did Columbo drive?
Peugeot.
A Carmen Gear.
No.
Yes.
It wasn't a Carmen Gear.
I think.
Wasn't it?
No.
Or was it a
300? Was it a
Peugeot?
No, it was
190.
a Ford with the convertible.
No, you're right. It's a Peugeot. It's a Peugeot.
Oh, we had this before, didn't we? I got Carmen Gear stuck in my head. Yeah, you're right.
Peugeot. I love Columbo.
Yeah.
Works for the
let's
state,
talk about
Neil.
Formula One.
Doesn't work.
Let's talk about Formula One. Manish was there on the ground at Abu Dhabi. So tell us what happened.
Oh, my days. I have never had such a tense few days ever. I think it was funny. We got to the circuit on Friday, and there was just this sense that Max might do it, and he'd been building and building and building. But at the same time, I was there in 2010 when Fernando was meant to do it, and I remember that what stopped Fernando beating the Red Bulls was the fact that it was Fernando all on his own, and it was two Red Bulls, and they could split their strategy, and he had to mark one of them or the other. So just from a purely motoring point of view, you had this sort of, what are McLaren going to do? Then there were so many rumors, well, Max is going to back them up as he did in 2000 and as Lewis did, in 2016 at Abu Dhabi. And that was like, oh, but the circuit's different now and the cars are so different. And anyway, if he does that, Oscar might take him up. There was so much speculation and the atmosphere was so tense. And I have to say, the turnout, which can be a little bit variable, I mean, the main grandstand, which is opposite where we were watching, was completely full. And I would say that normally there's a lot of sort of Ferrari red. I would say overall, there was this real desire that McLaren win. And if the desire was that McLaren win, then Lando was obviously going to be the more likely of the two. And, I watched the quali, and it was just incredibly exciting. And just again, Max just pulled it out of his hat. It was a fantastic. I think its fastest 2 laps would have done it. So it was just that good. And what I was doing was we have this amazing balcony that you could in theory watch from, but the problem is that the screen was too far away. So this balcony was at the end of the pit straight on the right hand side if you're watching as a driver. And but the timing screens were about 40 yards to my left and across. I just couldn't see the times. So I actually went back inside the paddock club and just stood underneath 2 screens. When the cars came down, I looked. And again, just afterwards, we wandered down into the paddock. It was absolutely electric. I think in terms of if you want a show, to have Max on pole, Lando right behind him, and Oscar right behind him, it was just, and then people were like, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? And of course, all the sensible people were saying, well, Lando's going to drive sensibly to third, but that's all very sensible. The fact is, in Formula One, anything can happen. You have a puncture, you go over a piece of this, you go wide, heaven knows what can happen. And then on race day, I went down, I sat with Andrea Stella's family. I know them really well. Andrea was obviously very, very busy. And Edo, Fede, and Michaela and I were just sitting and having a chat. They were incredibly calm. And I said, so how's Andrea doing? And saying, everything's been very methodical. This just has to be a normal weekend. And we have to enjoy it. And we have to remember how lucky we are. We're all here in Abu Dhabi, in the sun, having this fantastic time. And then very sweetly, Lando's father and his girlfriend sat on the table next to us. We were having a little bit, we said hello, but obviously they wanted to be on their own. The number of people who kept coming up to him going, are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling nervous? Is everything good? I was thinking, if one other person does that, I think I might punch them. So eventually wandered up went back into the lounge, and I really held my breath. I did stand on the balcony for the first 5 laps because the big worry was that, there would be some awful first turn thing, and literally just watched Oscar steaming up. And I saw that Oscar was on the hards and Lando was on the medium. So we knew Lando was almost certainly going to 2-stop. And it felt like Oscar, it was a bit of a genius strategy, because if Oscar could get past Lando, he could push Max and just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because Max knows full well that Oscar's going to drive off after him. And I think the strategy was inspired. But we all expected Lando to be covering George Russell. And George made a pretty mediocre start. And then after that, looked like the Mercedes just wasn't working. Charles Leclerc looked so dangerous. First 5 laps, he was never more than 0.6 behind Lando. And I was half expecting him to throw on down the inside, because they'd interviewed him before the race and said, what are you doing? He said, I'm going for a podium. And what about Lando? He's like, what about Lando? And that's absolutely not what you want to hear when you're driving for third. But then in the first pit stop, I actually missed Charles coming in. So I thought, what's happened here? What's happened here? Why have they brought Lando in so early? Then I realized he was covering Charles. He came out, and just as the race evolved, it became more and more clear how brilliant McLaren's execution was. They weren't going to try to chase some kind of random glory, despite that one brilliant line from Oscar when he came out of the pit saying, he said, tell me what I have to do to win this race. But actually, they drove beautifully as a team. The orders were executed beautifully as a team. And I felt pretty emotional at the end, but the emotions really came out. We went and stood underneath the podium. We saw a British world champion, spraying the stuff. I can't describe how that felt. It was McLaren. They did it. I made a TV show in 2017, which was McLaren's Annus Horribilis. The Honda engine didn't physically fit onto the back of the chassis. Think about that. 8 years after that, they've won both championships in their own style. And then, the walk through the garage, the walk into the paddock, and then just standing and sitting sometimes just as the McLaren personnel came in. There was no acrimony. There was no sort of hard cheese at all. You could see that Oscar was maybe, maybe, but that's all it was. It wasn't any more rancorous than that. Tom Stallard was, he was titanic. He was just so sort of, look, we almost did it. We've got to be proud. Zach was through the roof. And then Andrea arrived. And that is when I did start crying. I just literally could not stop myself. We just had a really, you had a billion things to do, but we just had a genuine hug. And it was just wonderful that, they did it their way. And I know, listen, I've taken the mickey out of Mr. Cooper. And in fact, Piers Tyne and I rather did take the mickey out of Mr. Cooper because I think papaya rules rule. But it was great to see a British team find their way back. It was great to see a British driver triumph in that way, in that style that Lando has. He's not a nasty human being. He's a lovely young man. He is full of self-doubt. Sometimes perhaps he does wear it on his sleeves, but that's who he is. And that gives me a lot of joy because I think when this whole motor racing thing is over for him, that young man is going to know who he is. He'll be an older man. And, my final thought, it was just so authentic. This victory was so authentic. That team is so authentic. It's a real team. And it's not about spraying champagne and just going, yeah, we won. That's something. But they are a team. It's the most coherent group of people. And, it was a joy, a privilege, a dream to be there. It really was. That's what I would say.
Well, what a lovely weekend and privilege to be there, Manish. Neil, what do you think?
If Manish doesn't get that movie, I'll be shocked. I think the look, thank fuck. McLaren in the end were lucky, and they deserved it in the end. And if you're British, you're really chuffed that Lando won. And great job by McLaren. Zach, what a genius. The whole gang. I don't know anyone else. I don't know anyone there actually, but I think what a great job. But crikey, it could have gone wrong in the end because they had the best driver right on their case, and it shouldn't have been that way really. But in the end, they just got it over the line, and congratulations. And it's really great to have another British Formula One champion, and well done to Lando.
Chris Cooper.
I think it's fantastic. There's a British world champion in a British team. It's a new world champion. It's fantastic for British motorsport. With my Motorsport UK hat on, it's been fantastic. It creates interest. Lando is a different kind of world champion to the one we've had the last 4 years, and probably the years before that in Lewis. And that's really good. It's just it's not just one kind of person that can do this. Great for Ginetta cars and their Ginetta Junior series.
Yes.
Which every dad with 200 million in the bank now thinking, I can be like Adam Norris and put my son in the Ginetta Junior. So great for them. Great. So Lawrence Tomlinson and all of your crew up in Leeds, well done you. And yeah, it was, but it was a close run thing. 2 points. And I think my only other, Manish, you said it all, and it was everyone's watched it and they'll know how they feel. But it's great for British motorsport. Whatever. Two quick additional thoughts. If you were one of or either of the Ferrari drivers, you'd be thinking, what am I going to do? What's going to happen?
That's tricky.
Charles has had 8 wins in 6 years that he's been there. Lewis has had his worst season. We all feel for him. He's worn his emotion and his confusion and his upset on his sleeve. Bless him. And you just really hope that somehow they can throw a 6 over the winter with these new rules, and somehow it's all better. But it feels like it's it's a double six. It just doesn't feel. So I feel for both of them, and for Max, I thought he conducted himself really well.
Yeah.
In he win or lose, he was happy. I'm sure clearly he wanted to win, but to have got within 2 points. If somebody said after Zandvoort, you'll be 2 points behind at the end of Abu Dhabi, none of us would have said that is remotely possible. So I think well done to the Red Bull team. We can probably call it the new Red Bull team. The news of Helmut Marko's retirement at 82, he's probably due a bit of time off. Whatever everyone thinks about him, he's an incredible, passionate stalwart for the sport. He has picked the odd good driver or two in his time.
Goodness me.
World
The
championships
roster
between
is
them.
unbelievable, actually,
So I
isn't
think
it?
Laurent Miquez and his team and all that's going on there, well done them for giving us a championship and managed the tension that you described so well. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm over the moon. There's something in the water near where I was brought up. I was brought up about 10 miles, 15 miles from Frome. And I wish I had the Button Norris water. There's obviously a bit better than mine, but it's remarkable that little part of the West Country has produced two of the last three British world champions. I'm over the moon.
Yeah.
Lando is a very interesting chap, and I think he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's got a vulnerability that a lot of young people his age align with, and I think they see themselves in that, and that's a really good thing. You're right. Max conducted himself really well. The old Max wouldn't have been maybe as gracious. I don't know. I watched the race, or the last part of the race, on a big screen in a safari lodge in Kenya, and the person sitting in front of me was Jos Verstappen, and watching a father deal with that is, you forget the people like the Adam Norrises and the Jos Verstappens. What are they going through when they watch their children duke it out in front of hundreds of millions of people? It's remarkable. I couldn't deal with the stress. I just think we should all thank Red Bull for coming good at the end of the season and not letting McLaren run away with it. I think I still find some of McLaren's thinking around it utterly baffling, and I think I'd hope they'd admit that there's a certain dose of serendipity that got them this championship. It could have gone wrong, and the outcome and the post-mortem, if a few things had changed at Barcelona, would be quite different right now, and everyone would be saying, how do they throw it away? But the great thing about sport is you don't live in the conditional tense. You don't live in ifs and buts and maybes. You live in what has actually happened, and they've delivered a constructors and a world drivers champion who's British, and you know what, this country needs a shot in the arm. And I want to say one thing. This is really important, and this matters more than all of the accolades that Lando's got. He's got the big pot. He's a world champion. His girlfriend is utterly beautiful, and he's got the world at his feet. But he now joins that rare group of human beings who will have his name used in the following context: when you're stopped for speeding, who do you think you are? Lando Norris. And I think there's only Nigel Mansell, Sterling Moss, Jenson Button, and Lewis Hamilton. And he's now joined that. That, for me, is the coolest group you could ever join. Who do you think you are? Lando Norris. I love that. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And Sterling didn't even win it.
No. Let's move on to a two-car garage, which I think Chris Cooper's going to read out for me because I can't really see.
I will read it out now. Just a quick parish notice before that, if I may. The eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that there is some Chris Harris on Cars podcasty merchandise now available. If you go to the Chris Harris on Cars Insta site, you'll find a link to it. We're trying to sort out international shipping, so bear with us on that. But please, for your nearest and dearest, there is something there for all of you. So thank you very much. This week's two-car garage comes from Christian Ford, who's down in Newquay. So Christian, we love this one. So this might be autobiographical. You are a 37-year-old man living on the outskirts of Newquay in beautiful Cornwall. Cornish born and bred, going back 14 generations. I'm a surveyor and I run a small business. I have 2 dogs, excellent, which come to work with me regularly. I currently have, bear with me, it's quite a long one, but it's good. I currently have a 2013 Volvo XC70, which is wonderful, but now time to change. The Volvo is worth 6K on a trade, 7.5 private retail. Include that in the total cost of the garage, 35 grand all in. 2 cars. One must be robust and big enough to carry me and 2 dogs around Cornwall and Devon, 20,000 odd miles a year. Other must, which could also be used for work, but which is on his own. One also must be the other one, fun weekend car, days out and road trips. He says, this has been going through my mind for ages. All the best and love the podcast. You are all a shining light to each Friday. Thank you and the best, Christian. Christian, thank you. Chaps, Manish.
Okay, my first car is going to be, because Car and Classic this week is rather wonderful, I found a 2004 Mercedes-Benz W163 ML55 for sale. And very low mileage. Look at that. I think you could have a bit of fun around Newquay in that beast. Over 300 horses. 2004, so it's not overly electronic. I think you'd enjoy that. It's a great little car. And then my fun weekender is going to be this rather stunning 2000, very low mileage, 2000 Honda S2000. Look at that navy blue, very low mileage.
Shit.
It's got grey black interior. It is a stunning car. That's my brace for the weekend.
Yes.
Like it. I like it. Off you go, Neil Clifford.
I can't show you pictures because I'm on my phone, and if I show my phone, then you can't see me. So the pictures will come up later by Clever Finley. The code in here is a couple of things. The guy's living alone with 2 dogs. So he doesn't seem to have a partner or children, which frankly is probably good in some respects because you can do whatever you want in life and the dogs can't argue. So he doesn't need a big car. And the other thing for me was lot of mileage. So if you choose the wrong 4x4, it's gonna cost you a ton in petrol, but more importantly, it's gonna probably break down. So I've gone Japanese. I've gone small and Japanese and cute. That can only be a Jimny. And I love the little Jimny. And I think, I remember when I bought one, the man at the Suzuki dealership in where was that? Near St Albans, said, "It was lovely to meet you, Mr. Clifford. I will never see you again because nothing will ever go wrong with this car. So goodbye." Because those switches are 40 years old. The Suzuki 1972 had the same switches. So you'll never, ever, anything go wrong with this car. So thanks very much. So you buy a Jimny. I think they're about 25 grand. They hold the money incredibly well because they're super pretty. Actually, as an aside, they do a little G-Wagon body kit. And there's going to be a small G-Wagon. We should talk about that when it gets announced because wouldn't that be great?
Good point.
And then I've stuck with Honda. Actually, I've stuck with Japanese. So I've gone exactly. I think I've actually chosen the same car as Manish, which I think is the first time this has ever happened. I've got S2000. I mean, of course, the right answer is really Boxster, but I'm becoming boring myself if I choose a Boxster every week.
That's why.
So, but you know what? I think we always choose this Honda 2000, and as they say in the magazines, a gear change like a rifle thing, whatever it was,
Rifle bolt.
Right, rifle bolt.
Rifle bolt gear change. When you get over 6,000 revs, the engine really sings. Pretty car. You want the hard top. I think mine was blue, so I've gone full on Japanese.
Chris Cooper.
Which is exactly what I went for as well.
That is hilarious.
The Honda 2000.
Yes.
And I'll just explain. Christian sounds like a very thoughtful,
Yes.
passionate, professional man.
Yes.
Proud of his heritage, proud of his work, takes pride in lots of things. And I think he could take pride in a Honda S2000, beautiful roads of Cornwall and Devon. I think it's a great choice.
Yep.
The fact that 3 of us agree, Christian,
Yep.
weighed in. And I think I almost went for a Jimny as well. But I love a Land Rover down in Cornwall and Devon. On Car and Classic, I found a 2009 twin cab Land Rover 110. Got a pickup body shape, all your sort of work stuff in there, and the dogs. Or the dogs can sit on the back seat and the front seat with you. That's what I do.
20,
Christian is the winner.
25,000 miles a year in one of them, mate. You'll have to get your own chiropractor.
Yeah, he's a robust man.
Yeah, he
Need
is.
therapy after that. Right. So I've gone. This is one of my guilty pleasures. I really like B8 A4 all roads. And there's one on Car and Classic. And I think they're really good little cars. Those A4 all roads. They're much better. They're much better over lumpy surfaces than you think. That's only $7,000, that one. And I think right now I'm really into these. I'm a scratch record E92 M3 manual. They're just fabulous cars. They are. I mean, they
That's
just
good as
remind
well.
It's a car from an era that you just think, God, you can't buy stuff like a manual V8 M car that goes like stink, sounds fabulous. You can't buy that anymore. So
That's good.
One
those
day
are my
they will be £1 million each.
Yeah. Now I'm just so my music choice. I'll explain it to you. So I'm just past the halfway point of the East African Safari Classic Rally, which is easily the hardest thing I've ever done in a car. I'm co-driving. I'm a bit bashed up because I just got off the stage half an hour before we started the podcast, and yeah, it's been an experience. And I'm co-driving next to Ferdy Porsche, so it says Porsche on the side of the car, and his great granddad started it all. So it's been quite interesting. And today we had some very big hits, and he drove magnificently. He really pushed. And when you sit in the car in the stage, you put your cans on. You take your helmet off, put your cans on for the road stages because the car's so noisy. And the latest Stilo's got a Bluetooth thing where you can actually have a little bit of music coming out of your headphones, so you can talk to each other. There's music in the background. And we've been in where we are now, Amboseli National Park on the edge for the last 2 rounds. So today with 240 kilometres of road of gravel stages, which is like 2 rallies in the UK in one day. We did the same yesterday. And when we came off, I looked at him and I said, "Am I allowed to?" And he didn't quite know what I meant. And then he looked up and he saw it, because Kilimanjaro is right in front of us, and it sits right. It's massive, and it's quite strange having a mountain come out of the ground. It comes out of the savannah. It's not in a range of mountains. It's just a volcano that sits there with snow on the top, and you're burning your ass off driving along in a 911. So I had to put on Toto's Africa because he talks about Kilimanjaro in it. And I did do it. It's utterly cheesy, and we both exchanged a large grin as we listened to Toto's Africa with the lyrics that make no sense at all. But what a tune, and it's got the word Kilimanjaro in it as we looked at the mountain. I'm a lucky boy. Manish.
Lucky.
It is starting to head towards Christmas, and I'm not a huge fan of all the crooning around Christmas, but I am a huge fan of the movies that we tend to watch then. I love dipping into James Bond. And I listened to From Russia with Love this morning. Matt Monro, who actually sang On Days Like These. I think it's a wonderful song any time of year, but especially this time of year.
Yeah.
Wonderful tune. Neil Clifford.
What a voice he's got. Okay, I hadn't thought about this. I went to see our friend Jay Jamiroquai last night. His first of 2 gigs in the O2. I'm biased. He's a mate, but it was brilliant. All my kids, I've got young kids, took them. They said it was one of the best gigs they've ever went. He's totally back in the game. Voice is better than ever. Could dance like a 25-year-old. Looks cool as fuck, basically. And so well done, Jay. You bloody absolutely hit it out of the park. You forget how many songs he's had that you don't know them, and when he plays them, you do know them. I'm going the obvious. Virtual Insanity. He ended with that. The whole of the O2 went crazy, and it was a brilliant night.
Chris Cooper.
Well, that's fantastic, and I mean, it must have been wonderful, and really, really jealous not to be there. Thinking about Ferrari and Charles and Lewis, it can only be the clash. Should I stay or should I go?
Yes,
that's a good one. That's a good one.
I mean,
There are going
mean,
to
the
be a
only
few
good
thing-
videos to that on YouTube, aren't there? There are going to be a few.
The only good thing is it's all
right.
changed. They've got a little bit of luck here that this everything's changing,
Yeah.
right?
Double six. Yeah.
I'm off to go and see the chiropractor and have my back sorted out. Thank you very much for tolerating the poor audio and all the other stuff that's gone on with episode 65. I'm currently sitting. There's a monkey down there. You can't see him, but there is a monkey just over there, and it's not me.
A minky.
Yeah.
Please go to my Instagram or the Chris Harrison Cars Instagram. Go and have a good search on Car and Classic. It's full of good metal and plastic at the moment. And enjoy the rest of your week. And thank you very much for bearing with us. I know this thing is a roaming podcast, but I wouldn't be able to have such brilliantly windswept and interesting co-hosts if we just sat in the studio every week. You have to accommodate some of these downsides to have their frankly brilliant opinions and lovely lucid explanations. And with that, we send you our love, and we look forward to seeing you and hearing you, or you hearing us next week. Bye-bye.